Good morning, welcome to today's replay. We're going to talk about the Freedom Journal for language learning, for developing discipline around using mnemonics for vocabulary acquisition in particular. You can do this with phrases, and why I'm so inspired to do this live presentation today is because I released a podcast and blog post about using this specifically for vocabulary, and then I got inspired to crack open a new one and start with phrases for the next 100 days. But I'm going to talk mostly about vocabulary in this live and break it down for you, and I'm actually going to do it. So if you are here hopping on the live, hit that thumbs up, say hello in the discussion, and let me know where you are in the world, what you're doing and what you're thinking, and then we're going to actually do this. We're going to use this right now, live, to memorize some vocabulary, and I'll talk to you about what it is that I do in order to make this hum, because I did it before over 100 days. Really, really powerful. And all you really need is something like this. And you know what? You really will benefit from having the actual real deal, the physical journal in your presence. But you could also potentially just create one of your own, of course. And there's something very, very profound about journaling for developing discipline and actually establishing this ability as a lifelong habit. So if you're interested in learning a language and just having good habits around it, then this is for you. If you're interested in learning how to use memory techniques better and have that as a daily habit so that it's pain-free day after day, then this is for you, and it works really magical. And I just, again, got inspired. I thought, I'm going to do this for the next 100 days with phrases this time instead of vocabulary. But we're going to talk now about vocabulary. So the first step is to have the journal, right? Because if you don't have it, then you're not able to do it. And you want to say, hell yeah, to doing this. So if you're on the live, say hell yeah, you're interested in doing this and that you're going to get a journal. If you're watching the replay, then you can take that small little micro step and post it in the discussion below and hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, please do get subscribed, because we talk about developing our discipline for doing the things we want in life, which is to learn and to grow and to actually get some progress instead of being held back all the time, because that is lame, it's frustrating, it's boring, and it only is a negative cycle. And we can break out of that negativity by taking steps toward positivity and just move one step at a time. And it's not like an upward progress like this, but you're going to go like this, and you're going to get higher and higher and higher. And then you're going to look back and you're going to have so much accomplishment and feel so good over time as a result of that. And this can help. And so I have found this tremendously useful. And as I was talking about on the Magnetic Memory Method podcast yesterday, and also on the blog with images from this journal, it is absolutely incredible what it does to rewire your brain, and you feel confidence every day. You get quick victories every day. AN is here and asks, can this also help with grammar? Yes, absolutely. Like if you were to say, for example, I want to memorize 100 grammar rules, if that was what you wanted to do, then this would help. Being able to memorize vocabulary and phrases is probably the best way to actually be better at understanding grammar. Because if you can memorize phrases based on, I strongly suggest basing on the foundation of vocabulary, and then you memorize a phrase around the vocabulary, step by step, then you can memorize examples that give you the grammar rule in action, in principle. Because we don't speak in grammar rules, we speak in sentences and phrases, and often not even grammatical ones. So grammar is in many ways a trap for a lot of language learners, but the answer is yes, of course you can. And in many cases you will want to learn grammar rules just so that you understand them, and you can use them as sort of an oil that helps move you forward through a language. But I wouldn't necessarily focus on memorizing grammar, but you could, especially if you were a linguist or something and you were studying linguistics, then this could help you really move forward fast through your study of linguistics. So that's the first thing, is to have this journal. And everybody here, let me know if you're here in the chat. Let's make this interactive. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. And it starts with saying hell yeah to having a journal. So if this makes sense to you already, let me know. Yes, you're in, and you're going to grab one of these. And the place to get one is, you can just look up Freedom Journal on Google. I'll put a link to the shortcode for Magnetic Memory Method to get it through my link, and later in the description below. It's magneticmemoryMethod.com/TFJ, which is very convenient, the Freedom Journal. And really, a lot of people have asked me already, since I posted the blog, do I recommend the Freedom Journal or do I recommend the Mastery Journal? And the truth is I recommend them both. But I think that my success with the Mastery Journal over the last year comes directly from having done this first. So my recommendation is get the Freedom Journal first, complete a sequence with it, then graduate to the Mastery Journal. Because Mastery Journal is more about multiple missions. I used this for multiple missions as well, and when Lee Dumas came out with the Mastery Journal with multiple missions, I was like, yes, because it is the extension of this. But I feel that I personally wouldn't have done as well with the Mastery Journal over the last year if I hadn't started with this. And I'm actually very, very excited to go back to this after the Mastery Journal, because the Freedom Journal, I think, especially when it comes to something like a language learning project, certainly helps you make your focus much more lasered in and tight on that particular thing. So here's basically what you're going to do. The first step is, of course, get the journal. Now, day by day, you're going to also need a source of the vocabulary. So there are lots of sources of vocabulary, but because we are dealing with analog here, right? Not digital, but analog, something real in our hands, it only makes sense to translate analog to analog, right? Well, we're going to use a digital tool here, which I'll show you in a second, and you'll find a version of this in whatever language you're learning. But this is going to be very, very useful. Is just what I would call the congruency principle, okay? The magnetic congruency principle is that if you're going to use analog physical aids, then it makes sense to use as many physical aids as possible. If you're going to use digital, then it makes sense to use as many digital as possible, so that there's congruency between them, and you're not flipping between devices and books, let's say, and physical items. And the reason why is because we know that when we're flipping through windows and so forth, it breaks our concentration, it breaks our focus, and then we need to recalibrate our focus. And that effect seems to be reduced to a bare minimum when we're switching between congruent mediums. Okay. By the way, I had this really great email from someone who said that they really appreciate that I use college level vocabulary in the YouTube videos and my podcast and the blog and so forth. And I never thought about it that way, but I guess words like congruent are college level vocabulary. So let me know if you appreciate that as well. I certainly don't want to overwhelm people with vocabulary, but at the same time, thought is a big thing, and the bigger your vocabulary, then the bigger your thoughts. It just stands to reason. So if you're in your mother tongue, you could use this just to improve in your mother tongue. And I've thought about doing that as well, because I often make the joke, I'm not even fluent in my mother tongue. No one is. And you could get even better and better in your own mother tongue, which would be a great thing for all of us to do. The benefits are huge. Anyway, source of vocabulary, right? If you're hopping on the live, hit that thumbs up. Let me know where you are in the world. And also, we had AN asking about if this will help with grammar. Let me know if that answered your question. And source of vocabulary. Okay, so there's millions and millions of sources of vocabulary. But following this magnetic congruency principle, I love this. I think this is just golden. And now this is in German, but there's probably some equivalent in any language that you want. And you can look for it. And something for, I should have brought more of my books, because there are great tools in multiple languages for finding vocabulary. I really, really like this, though, for Chinese. And one of the reasons why is because it lets you use the principle of alphabetization. And so it has, using the pinyin, all of the words alphabetized. And so you can really zero in and use all the principles of the magnetic memory method to be your guide. And it's extraordinary what that does for you when you break it down to simplest components. And some people, they frown upon the idea of using dictionaries and so forth. I just think that that's the most ridiculous criticism in the world. Of course dictionaries are useful. They're not the be-all and the end-all of language learning, and you don't want to get too focused on them. But from a memory perspective, the things that you can do for reducing cognitive overload by selecting words systematically as they have already been presented and systematized by other people. Hey, Chris is here, Natural Flow. Hello. Let me know. I hope I memorized your name properly. I think I did. But happy Friday to you as well. What did they used to say when I lived in Berlin? Freitag Tote Tag or something like that. Correct. Okay, got that. Anyway, this is really, really powerful, and for the reasons that I've just described. So, day one, what you would do is you've got your Freedom Journal here, and by the way, just so that you know, one of the things that I'm doing right now is people ask me, would you please make a course about Chinese? Would you please make a course about Chinese? And I'm testing out one of the modules right now live on this. So obviously, if you're interested and you're not subscribed at magneticmemory.com, go there and make sure you're subscribed so you get notified if you're interested in this Chinese course. And this will be a module using a journal for this purpose, because Chinese can be quite overwhelming, maybe more so than other languages. But I really want to test this out, and I want to get as much feedback from you all as possible. So I know live is just kind of a crazy medium and anything can happen, but generally I have in my mind a curriculum that we're going through. And I just really am more interested in getting feedback from the people who would take these courses. Everything we're doing, even though I'm going to use Chinese as an example, applies to any language that you would want to do. And this is coming from the perspective of people who want to use memory techniques. So it's not meant to be a be-all and end-all for language learning, although a bonus course that I have is called The Ultimate Language Learning Secret, and it enables you to use the big five, which is reading, writing, speaking, listening in a way that serves memory, and then using your memory to serve reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And this is basically a perfect circle when you get that rolling. So, and it's got things about how to find language learning teachers that actually will serve your goal rather than holding you back, which a lot of them will do, and so on. So let me know your feedback and criticism. Honest feedback is always appreciated, and we are in the 2.0 process for the masterclass overall, and I've got a couple of new courses ready to be designed for it. But first, we're redoing everything and going to be calling some of the family, the Magnetic Memory Method family, to see if people can give some feedback before that I do it. I got 3 potential models for how I'm going to redo it, and I'm going to use the Mastery Journal to get it done, because it's a massive project. And these things, don't dismiss how powerful this is to getting projects done. I mean, last year, Jonathan Levy and I was guided by this. He's got his own ways of doing things. We shot 14 video courses, 14, and got them up on the internet, edited, all this stuff. And if you haven't heard the news, that's all now at brandingu.academy, brandingu.academy, or you can go to magneticmemorymethod.com/by to learn all about that. Anyway, so you got your journal. Let me know if there are any questions so far, and we'll catch up with them. You got your journal, and you have a source of vocabulary. Now, the source of vocabulary isn't enough, and this is the cool thing that the journal is going to do for you, is it's going to let you make your strategy for the following day the night before. But you got to start somewhere on the first day. And the first day might be a bit clunky, as was mine yesterday. And actually yesterday I just sort of spontaneously decided I'm going to do it again. And so I grabbed one, and so my first day wasn't optimal. But here's the deal. Don't worry about perfection. Worry about progressionism. Just get started. And so that's what I did. And I realized after I wrote down the first thing that I wrote down, no, this isn't exactly the best way to do it. But now I know for today, which is what I'm doing today. So in any case, what you're going to do is you just go through it, read the beginning parts about how to establish a SMART goal, how to test the goal, and, really commit and engage and persevere, as it says here. And then it's time to ignite, which is one of John Lee Dumas' great words, ignite. And it's really like that, be on fire for the things that you want to do. That'll get you going. I mean, fire is hot, and it keeps you moving. All right, so then it basically breaks down how you're going to break down the sprints and so forth. And then I love this, on your mark, 10-day sprint, and then you go. So here's my day one, and the first thing that I did is I prepped a memory palace. And day one is broken down into the morning and the evening, but I skipped to the evening part to draw the memory palace. And then the first part that it does is it says, it's a quote. I love this quote. I think of it as the mindset adjuster. Every day there's a quote. And this one is from Jim Rohn, great leader who's now passed away, but well worth going through his courses. He says, if you really want to do something, you'll find a way. If you don't, you'll find an excuse. Isn't that true? I mean, let me know in the chat. Does that make sense to you? Hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. Let me know where you are in the world. We're going to catch up with some of the comments that come in as we go along. But mindset adjuster. This is so cool. It primes your mind to be thinking in the right direction. You might be already first thing in the morning. Oh, it's raining. Can you hear that? Let's take a look at this rain. Oh, that's amazing. All right, I hope it doesn't wreck our signal. It's certainly not stopping that motorbike there. I love it. All right, so mindset adjuster. And then beneath that you have I'm grateful for. And this is where I made my mistake yesterday. Instead of writing down the gratitude thing, but I'd already gratitude journaled. Why would you say that in the past? I journaled my gratitude already. Olympia says, excellent quote. Saludos from Mexico. Thanks for being here, Olympia. Thanks for saying hello. Helpful Living from Thailand is here. Great to see you. Hit that thumbs up. Keep the comments coming. Ayan says, thank you for answering my question. And what is inside the Freedom Journal? What's it like? Is it just blank? No, it's not just blank, as we're going through now. Thanks for asking that. Going to break it down on this session. Oh man, I didn't expect that it was going to rain like crazy, but we're just going to keep rolling, guys. This is, it's going to ask you to list your gratitude. Like I said on yesterday's podcast and blog post, I like to stack them in tens. Suzanne's here from Vancouver Island. Thanks for saying hello. Chris just left a great comment. We'll get to that in a second. But the gratitude thing. Now, why would you gratitude journal? It's great because it's reminding you of how awesome your life is, and you never have to focus on any of the bad stuff. So it's mindset adjuster part 2. And I like to stack my gratitude in part 10 parts. And I always do 10, but if I go more than 10, sometimes I push myself a little bit. I try to make it an even number. I'm a little OCD with that. And it's important to do that. How's the sound, by the way, guys? I mean, I don't want this to be overwhelming. But I love being on the porch. I love being on my porch to do these lives. But yeah, the next part is, it reminds you to say, in 99 days, I will. And you can write down your goal and reassert what it is you're going to do. So in the case of whatever it is you choose to do, like if you say, I'm going to memorize 100 vocabulary words in Spanish, or whatever it is, you're going to put down that. And yeah, it gets repetitive day after day, but you're priming yourself, you're reminding yourself, and you're just saying, hell yeah, again and again and again. So if that makes sense to you, say hell yeah now in the comments, and it's really, really powerful. Now, you say what your number one focus is. So if your focus is, for example, Suzanne's just asking alphabetical or by theme, if your focus is you're going to work on some A words that start with A, then you'll write that down. If you're going to work on vocabulary or even grammar around a particular area, then that's going to work as well. Alphabetical is what I advise either way. Even if you're going to do thematical words, always alphabetize them, I say, because it just works for me. Experiment with your own thing. It works for me for incredible reasons, and that has to do with reducing cognitive overwhelm, because your mind knows where to go next. Just like you're looking for a book in the library, the Dewey Decimal System, or whatever the case may be, if it's the imperial system, then you've got an idea. You start to get an idea, and you don't have to think so much. It's all, the clue of what comes next is there. It's reducing cognitive overload. So that's important. And then you have to get closer to my goal, I will do this. Suzanne says, that makes sense. It does make sense. And anybody who does it, even if it turns out not to be for you, it might be for you later in the future. And it really, really is something that people, when they just submit to the process, they're like, yes, it works. And it works for a reason. And that reason is incredibly powerful, and it applies to a lot of other things that you might want to memorize as well, especially when you get into bridging figures, which I recommend, of course. Then it says, by the end of today I will have accomplished 2 things, right? So those 2 things might be create memory palace and encode with my magnetic memory bridging figure or whatever, 10 words. And then the second thing might be recall them in this journal, right? And again, I start off by actually drawing the day's memory palace right there. And it's like, fate or luck or something. There's just enough space for a beautiful memory palace that's just big enough for that simple goal. And it doesn't have to be 10 vocabulary words per day. It could just be just one. And you do the same memory palace over 10 days and go through it. It could be 2 to 3, 2 to 5, whatever the case may be. But that's where I start. Then you have an action plan for the day, and I wrote out the action plan for the day. Then thoughts, ideas, and musings. Now, why thoughts and ideas and musings? Why would you just do that? Well, we know from creativity studies that when you focus on something, then you focus on something else, especially a creative sort of thing, you're priming the mind for more action, and you're really, really going to get better results. The studies in this, there are many, many books that talk about studies, but basically how this applies to memory techniques in particular is, and I've done this a lot, and it's very powerful, is before you sit down to memorize 10 words, get a deck of cards, memorize a quarter of a deck. Just, you don't even really care that much about that. You're just priming the mind to get into the images, get into the encoding, get into form. It's like stretching before you go for a run, or stretching before you hit the weights, you know? Just getting your body primed, loose, limber, limp, and warm. And then you do your memorization. Then after that, you cool down by doing more cards or just returning to the cards that you memorized. And again, it's not really about like actually memorizing the cards. It's just about getting loose and limpid and warm. So that's what this is. It's the same thing from a different angle. Just put down any random thoughts. Then it's got a little recommended resource which you can use or ignore. It's up to you. It's just cool that it's there, and I think it really connects nicely to this random thoughts and musings. Because it gives your mind somewhere else to go, takes a bit of break, a bit of relief from your focus and concentration. Then you're ready to go. Your morning journaling is done. Now all you have to do is sit down and take action. My big tip, do this before you turn on the iPhone, before you turn on whatever other dumb phone that you use. And I say that intentionally, dumb phone. They're not, these smartphones are not very smart. They are smart at addicting us to the tsunami of information that breaks us from achieving our goals. So this is really, really important. Do this before the internet takes over, before the notifications take over, before the email takes over. Do this, and then sit down. You've got your memory palace drawn. You've got your source of vocabulary. Rock and roll. We're going to do some in a minute here, but it's super, super easy. Let's catch up with some of our attendees here. Thank you, Helpful Living, and Graham, that the sound is okay. I appreciate that. This rain is unbelievable. I love it. Sandeep is saying how to store vocabulary in minutes in a permanent way. So yeah, I mean, you can do this. You can do things where you hear it once and you'll memorize it forever if you follow up with recall rehearsal. It's really powerful. You've got to just learn these techniques and practice them. And it's really that simple. And it's something you learn by doing. You basically do what I call SIP, okay? Which is very simple. Study memory techniques, implement memory techniques, practice memory techniques. You'll get there faster than you think. And you do it consistently, and what we're talking about today is the way to do it. Get yourself one of these. I don't want to like oversell it on you, but this is the path to freedom. The rules will set you free. Exactly what we're talking about right now. So let's see what else we got here. Graham's from Scotland. Thanks for letting me know where you are, Graham. I appreciate that. Natural Flow, Chris says, not disagreeing fully with Jim Rohn, but many have bad habits and no strategy to overcome. They might want something but have no tools to go after. That is true, that is true. And, you know, to just harness on that point. Look, quotes are awesome, but quotes also are not necessarily the answer. It's what you do with the quotes, right? So if we look at something like this, if you really want to do something, you'll find a way. If you don't, you'll find an excuse. What you do with that is you don't say, huh, that's a nice quote. What you do is you say, where am I making excuses in life, right? And then just get out a journal and write down the 3 excuses you might be making. Like, have a journal like this, just your journal. I saw this quote. What is this quote actually asking me to do? What's the action that I can take from this quote? And then the quote is the tool. The quote is the tool, right? But you got to do something with it. Do nothing, nothing happens. So when I think of quotes, I think, yeah, what are my excuses? What is the thing that I'm doing? Or what is this quote actually doing, asking me to do? Or how can I take the quote and translate it into action? That's when quotes are useful. Not just, oh, another quote, feel good, woohoo. No, we got to do something with the quotes, right? And often in my Freedom Journals, what I'll do is I'll actually reflect on the quote and use this thoughts and musing area to reflect on there. And if you look at the images from the journal on the podcast, which I'm going to link to in the replay below, and you can just go to Magnetic Memory Method now. It's the most recent one. Get it open. Make sure you go through it, check it out in more full detail. But I'll often point arrows up at the quote and reflect on how great the quote is, or maybe break it down, turn it into a tool. All right. So now we've got today. Day 2 is not filled out, and we're gonna. I already yesterday. Tomorrow will be a great day because there's a section here, and what I do is actually I say it's going to be a great day because I'm going to memorize some more Chinese, and then I put down what that Chinese is going to be. So that's there. So it's already ready to go, because you don't want to put an obstacle in your path and be like, okay, now I got to find out what those words are. No, just the night later or the night before the next day, have your plan ready to go. So I changed this from tomorrow will be a great day because, tomorrow will be a great day because, and then why, and then this is what I'm going to do to make it great. Which you could also just do by saying, I'm going to fill this out tomorrow. But in any case, I'm going to do this. Let's get in with our people here, though, first. So, Emerson's here. Oh, thank you for being here. Listening on my lunch break, not really feeling at my mental best. Does this help with depression? Well, thank you for that question. It helped me with depression, I can tell you that much. And I really think that any kind of consistent forward movement is going to help a lot of people with depression. I don't want to make blanket statements, however, though, because depression can be clinical. There's kinds of depression, I think, that aren't clinical at all. But clinical depression may require clinical means, and that's something to be explored with a doctor. But in terms of my own experience, yes, it helps with depression incredibly. And one of the reasons why is because when you have an attitude adjuster, right, or a mindset adjuster, so today is courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not absence of fear. So when I think about that, that's Mark Twain, just like, okay, so great. Fear is okay then. Absence of fear is not the goal. It's what are we going to do with fear? And then start to think about that. Already I'm feeling good, like it's triggering some kind of ideas, some kind of actions that can be taken. And if you use memory techniques, one of the things that you'll do is trigger norepinephrine, which is a chemical in the brain. And then you also can get some, and I'm not going to pretend to be a brain scientist here, but if you look at the literature, you can start to get a bit of dopamine and you can get some serotonin flowing and so forth by using your brain. So that already can make you feel better. Now, of course, I should mention here, before that I ever cracked this open, I have meditated and I have done some stretching, and stretching is part of the meditation. And so this is already getting the brain chemistry going. I think of this as the magnetic habit chain. Right? So it's a lot of stuff like this, and I windmill my arms, and then I'll do like sundog pose, and I don't even know what all the words are, but different poses, stretches, and breathing. And one of the breathing things that I like to do, I only discovered recently actually, I do a lot of different breathing exercises, but one that's really amazing is Kirtan Kriya, which is just Satanama. And you do that for 2 minutes, and then you whisper it for 10 minutes. Satanama. And then you do it silently in your mind for 2 minutes, and then you reverse the process. And then, of course, you can also play around, and you can go like this. Whenever I'm trying to talk into it, I kind of screw it up. But, yeah, you can do all kinds of mind tricks with it. Also, I'm going to do a whole course on all the different things I've discovered that you can do with Kirtan Kriya. But you're in a habit chain, right? So okay, I woke up. I'm going to stretch first. If I stretch, then I'm going to do breathing. When breathing is done, then it's if this, then that, right? So then when I'm done breathing, then I'm going to just do some other kind of meditation things. So there's like number skipping, which I love. It's so powerful for meditation. Then there's breath withholding, and there's breath in holding, and there's some other stuff. maybe some more stretching, and we're talking like 5 minutes here. This is not an hour-long thing. 5 to 10, maybe 15 minutes all combined. And then gonna pick up the journal, right? So by then, does the journal help with depression? Yes, but it's part of a chain of events. And I think it would be really hard to reduce the improvement to any one thing, but you start with just one thing. I didn't come up with this habit chain overnight. I developed it over time and started to realize, wow, like all these things in combination, it just gets better and better and better. I often think, what is my wife injecting into me when I'm sleeping? Because I just get happier and happier. And I think, am I manic or something? But if this is a manic thing, then it has been a manic state that has been growing and growing without all of the negative things of manic states. So it can't be that. It can't be, because I would have descended into chaos by now. So this is like I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to get into medical advice or anything like that, but I certainly have a history with problems, and I know what it's like to burn out from mania. And so I'm in basically a 1.5 year mania that just keeps growing and growing and growing, but it can't be a mania because that's just not how manic depression works. What it is it's a decoupling of negative thoughts that are right here, really banging around here and moving back into this part of the brain. Not a neuroscientist, but the guy to follow for this stuff that I learned a lot from is Gary Weber, Happiness Beyond Thought. Punch that into Google. This is time that you will never regret if you actually take action on what is being taught there. It's absolutely incredible. So I want to catch up with some more things. I hope that answers the question, Emerson's. And let me know if you have more. Arons is here. Hey, Arons, great. Says, hi bro, remember me? Thanks for getting back to me in the email. Absolutely, my pleasure. And you know, when you're a Magnetic Memory Method Masterclass person, I love to help you all. And thanks for being here. Thanks for saying hello. If you're on the live, say hello. Join the chat. Hit that thumbs up. Let's rock and roll. Chris says, have you ever heard of Vera Birkenbill's language learning technique? Yes, I have. I haven't been deep into it yet. I just sort of gave it a cursory glance. I do want to look at it more though. Thanks for the reminder. Beldis is here. Oh, Beldis is gone. It's 1:35 in Poland, or it was. Good night. Good night, Beldis. Keep up the good work, Anthony, he says. Great. So Emerson says, thank you. I'm running the steps because 20-minute exercise is as good as Prozac. I'm an avid meditator also. Yeah, I think so. I never did do Prozac, but I've done like Wellbutrin, and my longest run after lithium was lamotrigine, which is also sometimes called lamictal. These things, again, if you need them, do it. I mean, if I needed to, it would be the first thing that I would do, is go back onto something, because there is chemicals in the brain, and you don't have to go on medicine forever. But what you do need to do, and I think that we can say that this is fair without it being medical advice, what you need to do is you need to think about what your lifestyle is doing to create those problems in the first place, because often that's what it comes down to. It comes down to lifestyle choice. And of course, if you are eating crap all the time, you're going to feel like crap. And then you're going to think thoughts about feeling like crap. And then that's going to make you feel worse. And it's just a downward cycle. So maybe you're here today and you're going to get a Freedom Journal for eating a better diet. That works too. You can do so much better thinking when you feel better. So maybe that's the place to start. And you'll learn a language a lot easier and better, because you'll have clarity of mind and focus and concentration. And everything just gets better and better and better. So find the door to whatever it is that's going to give you the highest bang for your movement in terms of improvement, and then focus on that, and you will be free. You can be free. It's amazing. It's amazing what's possible. Maybe you need to go and binge on Wayne Dyer recordings or Eckhart Tolle recordings or whatever it is, but decide to make a change and stick with it, and this will help you, whatever it is. Let's check in again here with some comments. Emerson says, I'll buy the journal. Thanks. Yeah, if you guys want to check out the journal through the Magnetic Memory Method link, it's magneticmemorymethod.com/TFJ. Very easy to remember. The Freedom Journal, TFJ, magneticmemorymethod.com. Suzanne says, I'm sure journaling will help with my chronic procrastination. Yeah, it certainly will. I mean, procrastination is curable. And Eckhart Tolle always said something that I like, which is that the problem with procrastination is not so much the procrastination itself, it's that we punish ourselves for procrastinating. And then Tim Ferriss said, and I'm sure he's not maybe the first one, but anyway, I remember it from him. He said, the thing is, the problem with procrastination is that people just don't schedule it, right? So you're going to be forced to procrastinate one way or the other. It's just part of life. We need downtime. It's just like in this journal, right? It has a space for thoughts and musings. That's by design. It's because we need a break. We need a pause. We focused on this part. Now it's time to switch gears and have a pause. And the best learners have always known this. And even in school to a certain extent, you know, I think schools, they force us to focus on things too long without taking a pause. But they still know a little bit about, you know, switching gears and going to a different topic. And this is very, very helpful to do over time, to really, really have the greatest bang for your buck, really. It's just to understand those two principles about procrastination. Don't punish yourself when you're procrastinating, and schedule procrastination. And what gets scheduled gets done, right? And that's the same thing for the things that are not procrastination. So schedule some time every morning to fill out one side of the page, and evening time, one side of the page, right, for the night. And as I was suggesting before, you can skip to the evening part because there's that great space for the journal, for the memory palace in the journal. Anyway, I haven't done this yet today, so I'm going to get started here. Courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not absence of fear. So I'm going to reflect on that, and basically my reflection is that it's exactly right. Hold on to your fear. You know, Stephen King's It has a great life lesson in it. As I remember the book, the whole way that they were supposed to defeat the It is that there's something about this old native myth where the It monster bites your tongue and you have to bite its tongue back, right? And it's not that you get rid of fear, but it's that you dance with fear and you bite its tongue back because it's biting yours, and so you bite back. So it's not the absence of fear, it's the control of fear, which starts with acknowledging fear, and then you get to invite it in. And if you think of Michael Roach, I don't know if you know Michael Roach, he teaches Buddhism and stuff like that. One of the meditations he teaches is to acknowledge the black dog of death that's always nipping at your heels, right? And one of the ways you get the way you escape the tyranny of the fear of death is you just say hello to the dog, because it's always nipping at your heels. It's never going to stop. The only thing that stops it is to eventually actually die. So it's not about the absence of fear, as Mark Twain is saying here. It's acknowledging it, making it your friend. It's just a little dog. It's always nipping at your heels. Hello, death. A great friend of mine who died some years ago, he had Mr. Death. Oh, where is it? Oh, April, can you please bring me my backpack? Just the whole backpack. I got to show you something now that it's come to mind, because his name was Patrick Kimball, but he always went by his artist name, which was Man Woman. And he had Mr. Death, and he gave me this once upon a time. And I kind of regret that I did this with it, but I kind of don't regret it. Anyway, here's Mr. Death. Let's see if we can get a nice look at him. And Mr. Death says, "Catch you later." Isn't that so profound, right? And he's like Fred Astaire. He's dancing, and he's got his little stick, and he says, "Catch you later." And what I did is I had bent the pin, because at one point in my life I had the opportunity to go on tour with a band, and I'm like already in my mid-30s, and it's like, oh, are you really gonna just... I was trying to get a job again at university, and I was just like, are you really gonna drop everything to go on tour with the band? And I just remember Mr. Death, right? Catch you later. He's going to catch me one way or the other, so you better live the life you want to live, right? You better do the things you wanted to do. And it was journaling that actually helped me. It helped me escape the prison of the tyranny of the fear of death, the fear of what other people think about you, the fear of, you know, what's going to happen and so forth. And through this journaling process, which the Freedom Journal didn't even exist yet, and I just had this. I always have one of these. I carried it around. And what I started to do was to tell the story of my perfect present. Anyway, I won't get into it, but ultimately the perfect present was to write books, to be on tour, playing music with a band, playing music every day, and it just started to attitude adjust. And then before you knew it, I was on tour. And what I did is I took him with me. I got rid of almost everything that I owned. I had a bass guitar, I had a backpack with a laptop in it, and I had a suitcase. That's all I had. And I kept it, and then I bent the back, and I put it on my bass guitar strap, and took it on tour with me. And I had Mr. Death with me every step of the way. And here's the odd thing, synchronicity or whatever, but the day that I had to give up one of my original Patrick Kimball man-woman paintings, which was called A Princess to Die For, by man-woman, his artist name. It's a picture of Mr. Death kneeling before Princess Diana while the paparazzi are taking photos of her. I donated the painting to the Diabetes Research Foundation. This thing's a very, very valuable painting. It was a screen print by him. The day that I donated that, I got a call from my best friend. I was friends with Patrick, Mr. Man-Woman, and my friend Kirk, he emailed me. He said Man-Woman died that day. Crazy, right? Crazy story, but true. And the thing that I learned from him was to just live the life you want to live without fear, because death is there. Catch you later. The other thing I love from a man-woman is he always said, transcend, my friend, which I love. Anyway, that just came to mind, and remember Mr. Death. He's cool. I don't know if you can get Mr. Death t-shirts, but I used to have Mr. Death t-shirt and everything. Okay, so where were we? Let me check in with our chats here. Helpful Living says, how does the Memory Palace work? If you draw one on the first day that has 10 stations, then how do you add another 10 on the following days that eventually add up to 100 or more? This is a beautiful question. Thank you. You don't do one Memory Palace. One Memory Palace is the path to not knowing how to use Memory Palaces. You use multiple Memory Palaces. And where you need to go to learn how to make multiple Memory Palaces is magneticmemorymethod.com/YT. You'll get some worksheets and some videos that'll show you how to do it. So that's magneticmemorymethod.com/YT. A lot of people will have already taken that course, and if you haven't, do it, because one memory palace is not sufficient. You don't constantly grow a memory palace. That's just the path to frustration and the path to ultimately not using the magnetic memory method. The magnetic memory method requires you to unlock your spatial memory and to keep it growing through the power of multiple memory palaces. You have 7 magnetic modes. Space is one of them, and you are going to develop it as a wonderful habit for life, and you're going to experience so many brain benefits as a result, and those brain benefits are going to expand over time and very quickly if you just get into it. So great question, and this is going to help you make multiple memory palaces and use them. Now, you can reuse memory palaces, and I think it's a more intermediate sort of level thing, and there's some training on that in the full magnetic memory method masterclass. But please, 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 don't make the mistake of mega memory palaces. Actually, in next month's magnetic memory method print newsletter, we're going to be talking about mega memory palaces and what to do if you do want to do one. But this is beyond advanced or intermediate. It's advanced, and it is actually just another path to multiple memory palaces. So the mega memory palace, no one I know who's a serious mnemonist uses them. It just doesn't really work for most people. Now, some people talk about using them, but when I drill down and ask the questions that I ask, you can hear me talking with Brad Zuck about that on the recent time that he was on the Magnetic Memory Method podcast. It really is multiple memory palaces. You might call it one memory palace, but no, it's multiple memory palaces. It just is. No matter how one. Okay, I'm not the boss of everything. Call it one if you want. But if I were the boss of everyone and every memory palace, it would be multiples. It has to be multiple. All right. So that's a great question, Helpful Living. Thanks for asking it. Emerson says, I plan on living to at least 125 years old if I can control my mind. Thanks for saying that, actually. It's a good point. The Dan Sullivan, he's a cool guy to follow if you're into business and stuff. and even if you're not, he talks about how like they do surveys and people say, when are you going to die? And they always say, well, 75. And that's because we're trained to think about lifespan in the 75 to 85 era. And if you'd asked people 100 years ago, 150 years ago, when do you think you're going to die? They might have said 45 years old. He said, why? Dan Sullivan says this. Why don't you just decide that you're going to live till 150, even if you're not? Live as if you're going to live till you're 150. Act now to build the body that could sustain that could potentially even be around to take the benefit of whatever medical chemical processes are going to come from that. And why not do that, right? Like, even if it's not going to happen, why not have that mindset? And so I started to do that, and along with some other allies that I picked up along the way, I have totally recast my body. I showed a picture to Ollie the other day. He's like, geez, look at that. And of course, thank Jonathan. And you may have seen it in an email. If you're a subscriber to my list, I sent an email of my completely rebuilt body. And I thank not just memory techniques and journaling, but also just having had the guidance of really smart people, not all of whom I know, but just by taking action on the things that they teach on their podcasts and so forth. Because action is where it happens. Doing is where you learn. It's really, really important. So it is amazing what can happen. By the way, if you're hopping on this live and you haven't said hello, please do. Hit that thumbs up. Let me know that you like this, that you're engaged, and let's rock and roll. Oh, what else do we have here? Pink Ribbon's here. Thanks for saying hello, Pink Ribbon. Lovely to meet with you. Matthew's here. Pink Ribbon says, I'm late as always. We'll watch it again from the beginning once it ends. Please do. I think you'll pick up a lot of good stuff from the beginning. Matthew says, I was just thinking about death an hour ago, so this is kind of weird. Yeah, well, death is your friend, It's not a bad thing. It's going to happen. Embrace it. And I love that Michael Roach thing about the black dog nipping at your heels. It's actually in a meditation that he teaches. So we can talk about that at a different time because it's a really powerful meditation. And it's actually, the way he teaches it, he doesn't realize that he's doing it, but he teaches you to create a memory palace while you're memorizing the meditation. It's super powerful. And it's where I first discovered, and I went and did some research and realized, wait a second, Simonides of Kos, however you want to pronounce it, Simonides, as some people say, Simonides, as some people say, Simonides of Kos, he's attributed with the origins of the memory palace in ancient Greece, but actually it's in the Buddhist yogic tradition as well, and it's in the Australian Aborigine tradition, which you can read about in the Memory Code, and that's an amazing book as well. So there's just like no end to the amazement of what you can discover and learn in this beautiful tradition that we're talking about today. And so, let's see here. We've got Daphne. Hi, Daphne. Thanks for being here. So, Daphne says, hey, Anthony, glad to catch you live finally. Thanks for the thoughts on death. That was really inspiring. Greetings from sleeping Greece. Oh, well, hello to Greece. Really great to meet you here today. Kunal's here. Could I suggest something on PAO? Kunal, give me more guidance. What do you need with the PAO? Happy Pratt, tardy to the party, but hello. Just trying to get my conversational bearings. We'll watch later. Happy Pratt, thanks for being here. Thanks for saying hello. Always appreciate seeing your name. So what we're doing, just to recap, is we're talking about the Freedom Journal for language learning. And as I said, I'm auditioning a course that I'm going to build around this. It won't necessarily be around the Freedom Journal, although it will be a recommended tool. I'm thinking of making a magnetic memory method journal, and the best thing would be is to maybe fuse with this somehow, license it, and I don't know, whatever, all that complex business stuff, which will be fun if we can have a conversation about that, I hope. But if not, then I think that there's a way to build that. Would anybody here be interested if I made a magnetic memory method journal in getting one, and a course to go along with it, specifically for vocabulary with some examples? Let me know in the chat, hit the thumbs up if that would be interesting to you. If I just get crickets, then maybe I won't do it. Happy Pratt says, yes, please. Great, thanks for letting me know. For now, keep letting me know if that would be interesting to you, and I will fill this out. So we've got our Chinese vocabulary here. I've already set it up. I'm going to show you a cool tool for using the vocabulary so that you can get a sense of what phrases it might be. Alzer says, Altzer. That's a great name. Definitely. Helpful Living says yes, yes. Happy Pratt says I don't get the journal thing yet. Well, you might need to watch the replay, but we're going to do it right now. But thank you for letting me know. So you start off with the quote. We've gone through the quote now already, but that's the first thing I do is reflect on the quote. Natural Flow. Chris says German Chinese vocabulary book, very nice. Langenscheidt. Yeah, well, Langenscheidt is great, right? We talked about this before. But one of the reasons why I'm using a Chinese one, I'm using a German one, auf Deutsch for Chinese, is because I don't want to de-skill my German. I want to keep up with German. And so Benny Lewis actually, I don't know if he came up with the term, but I heard it from him. He calls it laddering. So laddering is when you are using a language you already know to learn another one, and you're studying that language in the language you already know. So that's a great strategy. Highly recommend it. Okay, so we need to, before we even get to the vocabulary, we're going to prime our minds. We're going to have some meditation first, some breathing exercises. Then we're going to get to the journal, and this journal is going to help us. And so we start with gratitude after we look at the quote. And so I'm just gonna do it. I'm grateful for number one. I always start with my wife, so I put her name. Number two, start with the YouTube live people. Chris and Happy Pratt and Emerson's and Pink Ribbon and everybody. Mustafa's not here, but maybe he'll come later. So I'm just really doing this. April and YouTube live people. Then I'm happy for water. I usually write down water because I don't take it for granted that water exists. It could be that we're, as I wrote on the blog and talked about in the podcast yesterday about all this, could be that I have 2 leaky buckets on my shoulders and have to walk miles to get dirty water that's barely drinkable, and have to run really fast home to the campfire where we're going to boil it with leaky buckets, right? I'm so grateful that the world just somehow is so designed by our ancestors in our civilized situation that you can just turn on the tap and then water comes out of it. A lot of people don't pause to be grateful for that. I think they're insane. And just to like express how amazing that is. It almost makes you want to cry. Anyway, so food. And 5, this journal, I often just think how grateful I am for this journal. 6 will be my friend Jonathan. Jonathan and I, we just released Branding You. We totally sold out on the first 20 students, and if you go and check that out at magneticmarymethod.com/BY, that would be great if you're a business person. We have some spots left for the coaching session with the next 20 people who sign up, so you can get that. But just generally, I'm so grateful for Jonathan. He's just an amazing person to know and to work with and to help others in his community with Super Learner has been such a blessing. They're so motivated. If you're a Super Learner person, say hello in the chat. Let me know you're here. The 2 brands just seem to go together really well. So I'm grateful for that. 7, grateful for, I already wrote this journal, but hey, I'm going to put down John Lee Dumas as well. He's so full of energy, ignite, and that's great. I'm going to put down number 8, dramatic weather. I thought that dramatic weather earlier was awesome. And Kunal, I'm going to say Kunal's question about PAO. I love talking about PAO, so that's there. And Kunal, I'm grateful for. I'll put question. Oh, see, now what happens is that you start to get these spikes of pleasure in your brain, because gratitude does that. And then 10, we'll just do 10. Oh, I like my bed. I love my bed. I'm so grateful for my bed. It's so comfy. Okay. Now, so that's there. I don't try to be particularly pristine about it and so forth. I just run with it. Helpful Living's asking about PAO. First of all, you can check out a lot of previous videos about PAO on Magnetic Mirror Method, and it's on my site. But we'll talk about that if there's time later. Next is 98 days, I will, right? So I started yesterday, and I'm just going to put 98 days, I will have memorized 100 plus new Chinese phrases. Okay? And I've noticed that people don't really seem to care about Chinese as much on my YouTube channel, so I don't know if I will share that such a specific journey, but in any case, we'll find a way to make some vlogging around it. Now it says my number one focus today is to create MP and use it for up to 10 phrases. Now I'm going to probably, when I hit my stride, I'll get up to 10, but I'm going to ease into it. Yesterday I did 3.5, let's call it. It was actually 4, but one of them's cheating because it was just a grammar switch. So that was pretty good for easing into it. But now what I need to do is I need to decide on the memory palace, and I'm going to draw it right here. So even though I might not do 10, I'm going to go for 10 stations and just start with a simple square, right? Now I'm thinking, what am I going to do? And instantly I thought of what's going to be great. So April was doing some experiments, and there was a little room there where she tested my eyes. I'm going to use that. And so I'm just thinking now, so it was a little bit like this. Yeah. So this, I've started now. This is a no area. And so now I'm going to think station 1, 2, and so forth. Actually, I'm going to do it like this. And look, again, it's not about being clean as a bean. You can scratch things out and redo it. You can transport this into your memory journal later. The point is just to get it created so it's done. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to call this an 8-station palace. Done. Boom. So that's done. So to get closer to my goal today, now we're back in the morning, I'm going to fill it out. I'm going to say, all right, today I will memorize phrases or vocabulary. Let's just do plus vocab. And then also I'm going to recall rehearsal. So that's a very specific process. So check, that's done. Now, by the end of the day, I will have accomplished 1, 2, 3. So I will have encoded my vocab. I'm going to push still to phrases, but for you, if you're just doing vocab, just put vocab. I will have RR'd, which is recall rehearsal, my words, and then I will journal it in the evening. Boom. Done. Now, action plan for the day. Now, this stuff, I just wrote down the action plan there, but today I'm going to edit this YouTube live later, make a thumbnail, whatever. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but you can chart out your day, a little action plan, a couple of missions, thoughts, ideas, and musings. So now we're switching gears, priming the mind, and just going to say, this is fun to do live. Then I'm going to think back to that quote. Should I memorize Mark Twain quote? Maybe podcast about death or something. Death and memory, that'd be cool. Great, so this page is done. See, that didn't take that long, right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to think a little bit more about this memory palace. And I have the memory journal. By the way, one of the students gave me this as a present in the vocabulary course, and we've become good friends in the years since, but thank you for that. This is a really beautiful journal. I love journals, and my address is on my website if you ever want to send me one. So I'm going to get a page, and I won't do this now, but what I will do is remake the memory palace in a little bit more detail, take 2 to 3 minutes or so. And sometimes you feel like you want to skip gears and just go straight to the encoding. I recommend that you don't do that, because it is so much better for your brain to just keep rolling forward and follow step by step by step, even if it takes a few extra minutes. But assuming that I've made that a little bit better, what I'm going to do is, last night I said here what today's words were going to be. Okay, so I already got them. And we'll just do 1 or 2 because I don't want this to go on forever. But I would do as many as I felt really make my mind plump and warm and happy. And feels like a good amount, and then I'd push just a little bit more. Because you always want to challenge yourself. You don't want to frustrate yourself. If you frustrate yourself, scale back to where you feel challenged, and then keep challenging yourself. So we're going to go with this first word here in the Y section, which is on page 115. And now we see it means Asien, which is German for Asian. So it's, Joe, which is interesting. Now, how do I know, without bothering my delightful wife, a better pronunciation, and how do I know a phrase that I could use? Well, that's where I would break my congruity rule a little bit, not always, but a little bit, and I would go to something which is really great, and it's the Pleco app, and it's a kind of dictionary, and you'll find that any kind of dictionary will do, but I don't happen to have ever found a really great Chinese dictionary that I like. I have an earplug in here. I'm just going to take it out briefly, and then I'm going to search this. So Yazhou, there it is. So now I've got it here, and it should say the word to us. Yazhou. And we'll just think about those. And think about the tones, 41. Okay, so it's the fourth tone and the first tone. So that's a rat in my PAO. We're getting to the PAO here. And that is also the Jack of Diamonds. And so I'm going to start to think about this in terms of the Jack of Diamonds. And Asian, okay? So now in the memory journal, what I like to do is just make a quick note of that. And we will put this back in. So I'm going to say, and it's not just any rat, it's Splinter, right? So Splinter shouts, yeah, at a G.I. Joe with a map of Asia. Boom, done. And that is, as I'm doing this, it's in the memory palace already. So the rest of the day is just repeat this. Don't need multiple examples unless you guys are dying for multiple examples. Let me know. And the thing is that in this particular case, it doesn't actually come with a phrase. So I'm just going to bookmark it for later. Maybe we'll do one more because I want to get a phrase going here. So then we go back to the book, and the next one is on page 112. I put my earplug back in. By the way, these earplugs that I have, they're custom fit for my ear. They fit perfectly, and they really help with focus and concentration. Okay, so this is Prüfen, Beraten und Studieren in German, which is basically to study and so on. So now we're going to go into here, and I'll bet you we'll get a phrase with this one. The cool thing about the Pleco app, even though I think there's a deficit to switching between digital and so study and research. Now we've got a phrase. Good. 研究. So second tone and first tone. So that's 21, which is Nat. So
研究.
Great. Then I'm going to go, I'm now at the second station in the memory palace, just mentally. And we're going to say research. So my friend Yan, great friend, it's spelled with a J instead of a Y, but that doesn't matter. He is now with my friend Nat. And now we can use G.I. Joe again, right? He is studying, what's a more concrete thing for studying? He's got a magnifying glass, and he's making notes. So Yan is studying, making notes about G.I. Joe. So Nat is going to tell me that it's the second tone and the first tone, and Yan is going to, so Yan and Nat, they're like fighting over the magnifying glass to study and do research about the G.I. Joe toy, right? Now, we get here some sentences, some phrases, and this is not bulletproof, okay? Because some of these will will not be the kind of Chinese phraseology that matches with your speaking partner or with your family or your district and so forth. This is one of the frustrations that language learners come up against, but just roll with it and correct it later, right? So just a short little phrase.
科学研究，
科学研究. So that's scientific research, right? I'm just going to go with that. So 科学, it's just basically adding only one word, but that's kind of cool. You can build it out later, like I like to do scientific research. And then you think about how to say that in the past, and think about how to say I'm going to do this tomorrow, do some scientific research tomorrow, and so forth. So ke can be Ken from Ken and Barbie, and so on.
科学研究，
So 科学, and then maybe there's some shoes there, right? Anyway, you can build it out, and that's how you roll. And you can do longer phrases if you want, and there's some techniques for making sure you have enough space on a single magnetic station in order to do that. But what you don't want to do, if you're just a beginner, is start doing something like,
癌症病原研究，
that's probably, well, actually that's not so bad, but it depends too on how many words you already know. So like this for me would be pretty good because I know 3 of the words in this sentence.
这些问题正在研究。
So since I already know those words, I have what's called in memory science a reserve, right? So I can just build on that reserve. I just need to remember what those words are, but I'll have those words in place, ready to go. And so basically what's going to happen, and I won't fill it out now because I'll fill it out tonight, is I'll fill out the second part of the journal. Then I'm going to look at the memory palace, and then in this little margin right here, I'm going to write out what I memorized. And that's call it a day, right? And during the day, all I have to do, and it's just a habit that you develop, is just recall what those words were. And the best way really to do this is to use the back of the journal to test yourself. So you can write out a couple of times. You've got lots of space over 100 days for thoughts and musings throughout the journal as your test to say, what was it I memorized? Not in your memory journal where you kept the record. Not cheating and going and looking here, because that's not asking your memory to work. It's not asking your memory to do the work. You're going to directly put it onto paper so you can see it with your eyes, and then what you'll do at the end of the night is you'll compare the original record against what you memorized. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. It's lots of fun. So that's basically it. And this is maybe all combined between, the journaling is about 5 minutes per page, so that's about 10 minutes, and then how long the actual memorization process takes comes to your skill, and it comes to your dedication to the craft. And let's never forget what Mr. Death says, which is that he'll catch you later. So if you struggle with discipline and memory, don't, because now's the time. All right, so that's it. Questions? Comments? Let's check in with our chat. If you're just joining us on the live now, say hello, hit that thumbs up. Let me know what you're doing, what you're thinking. And, PPC Mode, Brent Dunn's here. Thanks for saying hello. Thanks for being here. What are your earplugs called? Got an affiliate link. I wish I did have an affiliate link, actually, Brent, but these were made for me in Vancouver. And if you go to any specialist, ear specialist, where they make hearing aids, they can put them together for you. What they do is they put your head on the side, they fill it with wax or whatever material, and they make a mold of your ear. And then what they do is about a week later, you get a nice little box, and they usually have like a guarantee period in case it's not perfectly shaped, so you can get it done again. Because sometimes you know how when you make a mold of something, the shape isn't exactly right, or maybe an air bubble got in there or whatever. So ask them before you use the service of whatever ear specialist that you go to. Ask them if they have a guarantee period or whatever, to make sure that you get the right absolute fit. Because these are so comfortable, like for flying and for sleeping, because you can lay on your pillow and there's like no pressure whatsoever. Also, you can get them with different levels of filters. So if you like to go to concerts, for example, you can get filters that will make sure that your ears are hearing the music as if it was just wow, like everything, but it's filtering out the damaging frequencies. So you can hear it like radio quality, but none of the damage. And then you won't have ringing in your ears, you won't have pain later, you won't feel like your eardrums are swollen up like pillows, and yet you'll have this amazing experience of having heard the concert with beautiful quality and clarity, and none of the discomfort of these marshmallow, crappy earplugs that you buy at the drugstore, or these giant wax earplugs that you have to twist and turn and stick in your ear, and it's all gross, and you start to sweat and they start to edge their way out, and then you're just like, stuff it, I'll go to the concert and have the pain because I want to listen. These are worth every penny, and they're amazing. And so there's no particular name for them, they're just custom made by a professional. Although there are many companies that make the filters, but you don't have to even get filters. I like to have filters for my music stuff, both going to concert and rehearsal. Because also, if you're a musician and you're in rehearsal, when you have proper musicians' ear plugs, your ability to play with your fellow musicians goes way up, because you're not having the wrong sounds filtered for safety, but you're having the right frequencies filtered out, and you can play, which is great. All right, so let's catch in with some more of these questions. Kunal says, I used my major system images as an object. I made 50 PAO last night. Wow, congratulations, 50, that's great. All images should be different, right? I want suggestions for characters in action. By the way, I'm from India. Well, Kunal, that's great. In the Magnetic Memory Method Masterclass, you get all my 00 to 99, or at least one version of them. I'm always developing them and so forth. And if you want suggestions, there's a bunch there. And basically just keep making them. That's the best suggestion. Keep making them, and then make some more, and then keep on making some more, and let them evolve over time. A lot of people, if you're a competitor, then stick with them. Get them done and stick with them and practice using them. But for me, I have multiple ones for different numbers. I don't have multiple ones for every single one, but I often have multiples, which you might want to do depending on what you're using them for, and let them evolve over time. It's like they become a very fine wine. If you work with them, you stick with them, and then you can start using them in your language learning, like I demonstrated today with Splinter from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, who is not just a figure for for cards, but he's a figure for a particular configuration of Chinese tones. Very powerful. So thanks for that question. Helpful Living says, what's a PA? Oh, okay, so it's person action object, and it is, okay, so it's a big topic, and we'll get into it in the future, and we have gotten into it in the past. But I think there's a lot of misconceptions around it. The first thing is to decide, are you using it for competition or are you using it for life? When you're using it for life, then we have a certain kind of conversation. If you're using it for competition, ask a competitor. So let's think about it that way first and foremost. But it's super, super powerful for both outcomes, and it just operates a little bit differently. But it's essentially having, and there's different ways to do it, so we can't give a blanket definition, but it's essentially having image-based or sensation-based or auditory-based, ideally all of these things, ideas that come to mind whenever you look at a two-digit number. And there's different ways to do it. You can do it in an arbitrary way, or you can reduce the arbitrariness to the smallest degree so that there's a reason why that those characters represent certain numbers. And then you just look at any number and it's like, bam, Superman bending a rail, or bam, Johnny Cash is doing this, or bam, Chuck Norris is doing that. And then you just put them together in a story, and then just by remembering, and ideally in a memory palace, and then you just follow that chain of events, and then you get back the number. Really powerful. Or in the case of doing it for any language with tones, then you can go, that's what those tones were supposed to be. So really, really amazing. I think, Joe is Asian, and so Splinter was involved there, so it's got to be the second tone and the first tone. Things like that, right? Pretty powerful. Assuming that's correct. But yeah, I mean, I'm doing this live, which I don't really do encoding live except for names of people. But in any case, that's how it would work. Natural Flow, Chris asks, have you written a Chinese poem or song? Can you write one next time for us? Maybe a short one. If you want to hire me to write poetry in Chinese, get in touch. But I'll tell you, I'm one of the most expensive poets in the world. And I can write poems auf Deutsch as well. And there's no guarantee on poetry that I write in any language. I do not have guarantees for my poetry. But yeah, I have books of poetry you can buy. I have one called Lex Talionis Schadenfreude, actually. So if you know what Lex Talionis means and you know what Schadenfreude means, then you just went on a big mental adventure. Okay. I don't recommend my poetry necessarily. Kunal says, yes, I love that. I think PAO and major stations helps with developing visualization. Major magnetic stations, I hope, but developing visualization is not what everybody needs. What everybody needs may be to think about the magnetic modes, understand which ones you're better at, and then understand which ones you need to strengthen, and then go from there. But visualization is not necessarily your strongest tool. It's not my strongest tool. Visualization is really in the magnetic learning hierarchy and the magnetic mode hierarchy, it's actually quite low. Sound comes first, concept comes first, long before visualization. You do not need to see pictures in your mind in order to get real good with these techniques. Okay. Matthew says, so you're putting an entire phrase in each numbered spot on the memory palace. Yes, and there's something called the pillar technique that makes entire phrases a lot easier. So that's in the master class. Happy Pratt says, I see, so the journal thing is like a positive to-do list. No, that sounds incomplete, more of a personal motivation accountability record. Yeah, I gotta get me one of them. Yeah, so it's a lot of things, and I know that everybody wants life to be simple and easy, just the 10 Commandments, blah, blah, blah. Well, there are no 10 Commandments to this. What's gonna happen is you're gonna craft your own mission. This is gonna be your sword that you take into your battle, and you're gonna use it to slay your enemies, okay? So it's not one size fits all. I'm just telling you how I use it. I highly recommend you give it a try. Why not try it for 100 days? Prove me wrong, but what's gonna happen in that adventure is you'll figure it out for yourself. And it is so powerful. And again, there's also the Mastery Journal if you graduate. I do think it's a graduation thing. And maybe even more appropriate for different things. I wouldn't use Mastery Journal for language learning. I would use this for language learning, 100%. And like I said, I released that podcast yesterday in the blog post, and I just thought, I have another one. I'm going to crack it open, and away we go. And by the way, if you're not subscribed to my list at magneticmemorymethod.com, you might want to be, because every year I give away some of these as part of a contest when I do a certain promotion at the end of the year, which is all about developing yourself. And that's through Michael Hyatt's Best Year Ever program. Oh man, it's amazing. So, but you got to be on my list for that kind of stuff. So Happy Pratt says, thanks for the encoding example, super helpful. That's great. Make your own examples, and I'd be delighted if you'd share them here. Come back to the replay, pop them in the discussion area below. Pink Ribbon asks, do you integrate the sentence inside the same station of the word? Yeah, so if I do vocabulary, I go back to that place. It's an anchor now, right? It's working, and then we're just going to put a sentence around it. Or you can just start another memory palace, and it just might happen that word that you already know is in that new phrase, or maybe not. I mean, as you go along this adventure, what happens is you build a reserve, it's called in memory science. And then you're going to be able to just go straight to phrases. And a lot of those phrases, a lot of the words in the phrases you'll already know, and you'll already have a character for them, so then you just barrel forward a lot faster. It's a lot of fun. So, Suzanne says, if not today, when? Yeah, exactly. Now. The power of now. Be in the now, for sure. Helpful Living says, okay, got it. Thanks. You're very welcome. Natural Flow says, I wanted to challenge me to have an extra rehearsal. I taught myself some languages writing poetry. Okay, well, that's a good suggestion. I guess that's a matter of your level of where you're at. I mean, the whole point is if it challenges you without frustrating you, then by all means do it. And if you take pleasure in it, great. It's a great tip. great suggestion to try. When I was doing German, what I did was not to write poetry, but I would translate my own stuff. So I translated the Metamorphoses myself, and that was before we had Google Translate. So I had to do it manually, and it was a very great learning experience. I learned a lot of whiz-bang German vocabulary that people don't really use in everyday speech, but it was a great experience. And actually, I mentioned Lex Talionis Schadenfreude, my poetry book that I recommend you don't buy, but my translation of the Metamorphoses is in there from German, because it turned out kind of interesting, actually. So that's there. I haven't read it for a long time. And I don't have it to hand, but it's over there. One day, remind me, and maybe I'll show it to you. Read a little bit. Happy Pratt says, okay, I'm getting a journal, and I'll nickname it my Vorpal sword. Okay, I don't know what Vorpal is. I don't know what that means, but cool. You can use the link magneticmemorymethod.com/TFJ. That helps. By the way, all the sales for this support a charity, and also I donate. If you use that link, I donate the revenue to the Pollination Project, which is a wonderful, wonderful. Hey, April, can you give me that envelope? The Pollination Project actually sent me something, and I've been looking for the right occasion to open it up. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to be like, hey! 谢谢. So yeah, the Pollination Project is a really cool charity, and what they do is they give seed grants to people who have some kind of entrepreneurial mission that they want to do in their community, and I really, really love it. And I don't know what this is. I think I'll open this on a different call, but usually some of the people who have gotten some of the funding for their project, at the end of the year they send to the donors and so forth a wonderful collection of the neat things that they've made. Actually, can you get me last year's up there? That'd be awesome, please. Yeah, just use the stool to grab that box from last year. I'll show you last year's because it's already open. But I really love the things that they make, and they're just so ingenious, and all they need is a little bit of help. So the Pollination Project gives them a seed grant, and it's always kind of entrepreneurial in nature. That box, yeah. Yes. Yes. Oh, wonderful. So glad I can show you this. We're like going through Mr. Death and the Pollination Project today. But why not? We're here together. Let's jam. So, yeah, check this out. Okay, so this was from last year, the box. And it had some cards, which I already sent to some of you, actually. And like somebody, they took an emergency vest, or an emergency flotation device from an airplane, safe passage here, and they put a zipper on it to make like a cool little purse that you might want to carry around. I've been thinking about making a kind of like really small memory palace out of this. Anyway, I really love that. That's cool. Really ingenious. Not much is going to fit in there, but we'll figure something out for that. And then like a neat little bracelet came, which says make impact, which is what we have to do, right? Impact as many lives as we can positively. Then we got some sage to burn. I love sage. I grew up in a semi-arid territory, and I used to go and get some sage and burn it and stuff like that, and smudge. Learned how to smudge from some cool native people. And there's a bunch of stuff. This looks really cool. And then you get these cards that talk about what all the different projects were, and some writing from them describing their projects. And that's just to let you know where your donation went to. And again, it's little small, I think of their Kickstarter projects sort of for people in not just third world countries and so forth, but other places who want to get something done. So I not only donate to it, but also I donate my time as an advisor, and also do some consulting for the ones that have websites and want to develop a project and get better with internet, and how that they're doing to to get their own projects working better, because a huge part of it is not just, like, these seed grants aren't just about funding things, but also funding things in particular in a way that then they become self-funding. So it's really smart how it's done. And as far as I know, it's like one of the best charities in the world, because there's like almost zero overhead, and as far as I understand, the overhead is actually covered by the guy who started the charity, who himself donates $1,000 a day. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. It's called the Pollination Project. Check it out. And I think on a future live, we'll open this package and see what's inside. Unboxing. So that's cool. Great. So let's see, what else do we have here? So Matthew says that's 4-Pal is from, it's what's used to kill the Jabberwocky in Alice in Wonderland. Okay. I never have read Alice in Wonderland. I'll have to check that out sometime. Pink Ribbon says, do you ever sketch your mnemonics? Yes, I do, and on a previous live I was showing you a whole bunch of them. Do you find that actually writing down words helps memory versus writing on a keyboard, muscle memory? Yes, it does. And anything that you can do to get your hands involved with paper seems to have better memory benefits than digital. Now, I'm not going to get dogmatic about this or preach against technology and all that sort of stuff, but we know so far in the research that the technology is very hard to process the information from it, much harder than from print. And there's all kinds of people who are fighting to the death for this to not be true, but it just is true so far, and we are scientific in our thinking. A lot of people, they have a problem with science, and they think that scientists are bad and therefore science is bad. Science is a tool. It's a tool that's very simple. You make claims, and then you use the tools of science to present evidence in favor of those claims, or that support the validity of those claims. And yes, humans do this using the tool of science. Yes, some of those scientists are corrupt. Yes, some of those scientists are human. But that doesn't have anything to do with science itself. Science is the best tool that we have. It's the best invention humans have ever come across, except for the memory palace, which is even better because it helps you remember science, right? But that's all it is. So we should be very cautious of any skepticism we have around science, and be informed about what it is and why it works and why it's so powerful, and then recognize that when scientists do bad things, it's not because of science itself. Science is not a thing that does anything. Science is a tool that we pick up into our hands and then we apply, and then if people do bad things with it, then that's on them, okay? And the beauty is that when the real scientists come around, who are not perverse or bad, evil people, what they do is they use the science tools to correct the problem. And you know what? It's not about bad and evil. Sometimes scientists, they're just looking at the data, they're interpreting it, and they don't have any bad intention. They just haven't got enough data yet. So science is a self-correcting mechanism, right? And we need to really battle skepticism about science. And skepticism is itself a scientific tool in many ways. So it's not that skepticism is bad. It just needs to be correctly applied. And so I'm going on about this because you yourself are the best scientist in the world. And if you know what science is, then you're able to actually use this tool to decide for yourself in the most sophisticated ways and get better results. So there's n equals 1, study size, subject size of 1, and then you make correct experiments, you gather the data correctly or in a sophisticated way, and then you make interpretations based on that. You get instantly better decisions out of your life, and it's wonderful what happens for you. So if you're struggling with digital media, then get off of it and do a real good solid study for 100 days with analog, reducing the digital input as much as possible, and then go from there. And you will be able to decide for yourself. But understand that the real power of science is when you can make experiments where you are the scientist and you produce the results, and then without getting emotional about them, you just analyze them and decide and make decisions. You're like building a boat, and then you're getting in the boat and you're rowing along, and then you think, oh, there's a leak, I have to plug it in, or oh, if I just change this shape, then I can actually row faster, farther, and spend less energy doing it. But you got to be in the boat in order for you to ever understand those things. So that's trying to avoid generalizing and stuff, but that's a very specific way to think about it. Helpful Living says, could you please write the name of the charity you talked about? I couldn't understand what you said. I'm interested in helping. Okay, so they do have a challenge on Google, actually, because there's other people who are called the Pollination Project, but it is Pollination Project, and it is .org. So I'm not sure if you can see that in my handwriting, but it's pollinationproject.org, and go check it out, get involved, be part of the solution. And don't do it for the prizes at the end of every year. Do it because it's really amazing what they fund, and I think it's the best charity on the planet. Okay, so Pink Ribbon says, thank you very much for your answers, and sorry if I did a lot of questions today and for my mistakes in English. Your suggestions are invaluable. Well, thank you for asking good questions. I love good questions. And Natural Flow Chris says, Pink Ribbon, I for one enjoyed your questions, as did I. Keep them coming. I mean, that's the whole point of doing this live. I know the replays can be maybe a bit torturous, but it's for you guys who are here asking questions. Ask away. Kunal says, memory palaces could also be generated from virtual interactive apartments made with Unreal Engine. Have I seen that? Yeah, I have, and frankly, I think that do the science, right? Do the n=1 science. I don't find any benefit from doing that. I know some people do, and so I can't judge on it, but I will say that if you find that it's too much cognitive overload, which is my prediction for most people, go back to the real. If you haven't seen it, then you're not going to have the same chemical changes in your brain. So there's something about space. The guide to read for that is Stephen Kosslyn. It's called The Case for Mental Imagery, and there's a lot of science to it that you can go and study for yourself. But I would not rule out using virtual memory palaces. I've done a lot of experiments with it. I've done a lot of self-exploration and study, and I've talked to a lot of people who use them, and it seems to work for a particular kind of person who is highly imaginative and doesn't feel the same cognitive drain that someone like myself has. Even though I'm highly imaginative, I just don't see images in my mind very strongly. And so when I have to reinvent a memory palace, then it just doesn't work. But the beauty of a real memory palace is that you don't have to reinvent it, because something about the chemical changes that occur in the brain from having visited real locations reduces the need to see it at all. So it's a construct, it's like a constellation, and you have like these chemical coordinates that match your brain. Again, Stephen Kosslyn's The Case for Mental Imagery will give you more about why that works for, I would say, the majority of people, and why you're harnessing so much power of the natural state of your chemical brain in doing this. And so just figure out what your power is and then develop from there, and you will find great benefits. And as a mental exercise, by all means explore it. I've got 2 podcasts about virtual memory palaces, and one of them is in discussion with another mnemist, and he's more on the pro side. So look up Virtual Memory Palace on magneticmemorymethod.com if you want to learn more. Listen to these podcast episodes, and ultimately education is your best tool, your best weapon for forging the right kind of memory experiments in the laboratory of your mind. But one way or the other, it happens in your mind. And so optimize it so that you're reducing cognitive load. And what I've talked about today, and if you're just joining us live now, go back and watch the replay to see how this all works. This simple process of just a couple scribbles, nothing, like we're not looking at the Da Vinci Code here or something like that. This is so simple, but it reduces the cognitive load to almost nothing in two seconds really of work. It's not even work, it's play. I don't like that word, work. Let's get rid of it. No, let's memorize it in every language. Kunal says, I ran out of palaces, so I started using houses in video games and plan on using Unreal apartments. Sad part is best Unreal projects are very expensive, up to $250. Okay, well, look, I'm sure you can find sources of memory palaces that are a lot cheaper than that. Like go to magneticmemory.com and look up Breaking Bad, and you'll see how to use Breaking Bad as a memory palace. Watch any series. Use The Simpsons. There's endless. People have made memes of the floor plans of Breaking Bad, The Simpsons, and so on. You've spent hundreds of hours, or maybe not you personally, but you can spend dozens upon dozens of hours in memory palaces just by watching long form series. Like Stranger Things has so many memory palace options. Well, not so many. There's at least 3 that just instantly come to mind that are so great for memory palaces. You don't have to run out. No one has to run out of memory palaces. Kunal says, I'd like to share one memory palace with you on email. A modified house by putting photos of my friends. Seems like a personalized renovation. Great. Look forward to that. Kunal says, yes, you are right, sir. Okay, I'd rather, what was that thing from that I was talking about with Brent on his channel? I'd rather be rich than right, but there is a place for being right. I'd rather be learning, than be right, is what Brent said on his channel. And that's exactly correct. I'd rather be learning than being right. But I don't know what I'm right about, but if I'm right, I'm happy to be right in some cases. Happy Pratt says, oh hey, I forgot to tell you, Anthony, the poetry talk reminded me I just memorized my first poem using a memory palace so I can recite it for my little niece. Thank you for the course. Oh, great. I'm glad if you took the course on memorizing poetry and it helped. Awesome. Very delighted. And reciting poetry for nieces is one of the highest forms of virtue, for sure. Congratulations on that. And I would suggest just keep on memorizing. Keep on memorizing. Kunal says, sorry, I occupied all the space on chat. No, this is your time. This is like my office hours here in the Magnetic Memory Method headquarters. And it's here for you, so take it. Natural Flow Chris says, so this drawing palace of yours is not a real life place, but you literally use lines on paper as a palace. No, this is a real life place. All my memory palaces are real life places, except for when I've done experiments. In the masterclass, there's a mastermind part. I talk about the virtual memory palaces that I've used, why I use them, what works, what doesn't work for me, how you can model that in your own self-exploration, what you're going to do for yourself. And you've got to understand that you need to do this for yourself, and then you're going to develop what I call your mnemonic style, right? And that mnemonic style is going to develop faster and go further by the intelligence that you have, the intel that you have, getting started. So you can skip a lot of the painful journeys over years and years that I took trying to figure this stuff out by simply having some training, seeing the ins and outs. But I do not recommend inventing memory palaces for most people. I do not recommend virtual memory palaces based on movies or video games, especially not video games. Movies, I think, work better than video games for most people, but it depends. If you spend dozens of hours in video game environments, you could be well primed for it. It's never going to work for me because I'm never going to spend that amount of time in those video game environments, although never say never. I sometimes think about doing it, but I just don't enjoy video games that much. Although I like the Walking Dead video game, and April and I have played it, and we just sit there and bam, bam, bam. We got these, not bam, 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 but I don't know how it works. It's a crossbow. And I was just thinking, yeah, if I spent enough time in here, I could probably figure out at least 1 or 2 solid memory palaces. But the return on investment is so low. The amount of time that I'd have to spend playing that game, which personally for me, as fun as it is, there's also a negative thing. Like, I don't really want my mind filled with killing zombies and accidentally shooting live humans as well. I just don't want to be thinking about shooting at all, quite frankly. Especially not when, and this is not a soapbox speech against these things, because I love the horror genre. I've written horror stories, but I also there's something I don't love about it. I think the older I get, I start to understand conservatism in its ways, and we may get more sensitive to these things. I don't know. But in any case, I can see the logic of doing it if you spend a lot of time in video game environments. But frankly, without giving a speech to anybody, isn't there something better to do with your time than that? Or, I don't know, whatever. To Each a Zone, as the Smalls once called that album. If you haven't heard To Each a Zone by the Smalls, you're in for a treat. I'm sure it's on YouTube. This is a Canadian band. They're called the Smalls. To Each a Zone. Love that name. So, Matthew says, what was the name of the app you used to hear the vocabulary? Okay, it's called Pleco. It's not a magic bullet, so make sure you have real Chinese speakers to help you, but it's still pretty good. It's still pretty cool. And you know, another thing too, right, is you can go and search the vocabulary on YouTube, and there's something called forvo.com, which can be quite helpful to hear native speakers speaking. But at the end of the day, you want to have speaking with real people as part of your journey and adventure. And low stress people that don't stress you out, because there are some teachers out there that are really obnoxious. So try and find no comment on them as people, because they probably just don't want to be spending their time teaching. But people who love what they're doing and they're really patient and let you ask questions and so on, you'll know it when you feel it. So find people like that. They're there. All right, let's see what else we got. Love this. Thanks everybody for being so active. And if you're hopping on live now, say hello, hit the thumbs up button. Let me know where you are in the world and what you're doing, what you're thinking. Pink Ribbon says, I used a Simpsons scene as a memory palace to memorize the Japanese word, hu chao for knife. It's the scene where Marge cuts Homer's finger. Yeah, that's great. So that's actually trying to reduce the arbitrariness using a real non-arbitrary specific thing, which is a great strategy. So do that when you can, seize upon it. Huchu is a I in Venice dialect. I visualized that Marge cuts Homer's eye with the knife. Not a cute image. No, but it's memorable. It makes me think of what is it called? Un Chien Andalou, right? There's the knife cutting scene in that. Let me know if you've seen that movie, if you know what I'm talking about. Natural flow. Would you agree that with this statement? I have found it to work wonderfully with myself and students. I don't know what the context is. Memory palaces and associations should be easy in the sense that they are known things and fun. This way you will learn much faster. Yeah, well, I mean, look, we don't want blanket statements and so forth, and I'm not going to agree or disagree with things, but the whole point is that learners need teachers, and they need teachers that they like. And they especially need teachers who don't waste a lot of time on pulling the wool over their eyes and stuff like that. You just say it like it is, right? So memory techniques are awesome, and they're probably not for everybody, because not everybody is ready for them right now. And you do need to learn them. It's like you want to get to a certain destination, but there's no airport at that destination. And it turns out that there's no airport where you are either. So with memory techniques, basically what ends up happening is you got to build both airports somehow, and then you got to build the airplane, and you got to get on the airplane and land it on an airport that doesn't exist yet because you haven't built it yet. And it's the most exciting adventure you'll ever get on, but you have the debt of needing to do that. Now, I may be making that too extreme, but that's the way a lot of people approach this. Like, oh, it's this overwhelming job. It's like building airports that don't exist yet, and the planes don't exist yet, and so forth. And maybe the teacher that I am is the one who helps people who have already struggled with memory techniques, because I don't necessarily know the best ways to begin with these techniques, because to me it all just seems easy. Like I have, Steven Pinker calls it the curse of expertise, and that's just, I don't know how to get out of it. I don't know how to see it necessarily from the beginner's point of view, but as I'm redoing the Magnetic Memory Method Masterclass now, it seems to me that there needs to be a beginner's level course, and I'm trying to arrange, and people have already been responding and getting on calls with people who have been through all the trainings and figuring it out and trying to build what can be more beginner's level. But I've always thought of myself as more for people who have struggled with memory techniques. They already know what's up. They know the drill, and they either have failed and they want to actually now succeed, or they want to improve what it is that they're already doing, and they want to improve for specific things. So I don't really agree at all with the books that teach you how to memorize shopping lists and lists of random useless words. To me, that just makes no sense. It makes zero sense, right? They all start the same, or almost all. Let's not generalize. They almost all start with the same thing. Here's a list of words that you don't care about. Try and memorize them. Then you turn the page. Okay, now write down the words that you don't care about and try and list them. Like, how could you possibly ever get any result from this? You don't care about those words. Cheese, shopping bag, train, pencil. Like, obviously, this is just the most insane way to start with memory techniques, to me. Then what they do is they teach you some memory techniques, and then they then make you go and use the memory techniques. Then they give you the same list of boring words you don't care about, and now you're supposed to get better. Now, in my experience with them, it's just like, well, I didn't care about the words in the first place, so what's going to make me excited to actually memorize them using these techniques? Doesn't matter how cool the techniques is. What a waste of time. These words aren't going to improve my life. So how do you figure out, for the most amount of people, what is going to excite them? Well, that's up to the student, right? You need them to meet you halfway. So this is what I did in the Ultimate Language Learning Secret, the Ultimate Memory Improvement Secret. And I do it in its way in the Ultimate Language Learning Secret as well. But in the Ultimate Memory Improvement Secret, you figure it out, and it's in the memory connection as well. And people get in touch. They're like, wow, yeah, figuring out what's going to make the quick victories for me makes sense. So it's step back, build the airport at the end of the day. I think you get further faster if you do that. But that's not to say other people haven't been helped enormously by these other books. But that's great. That's awesome, 100%. I'm very happy. But I also think there's a time to optimize what you got, and there's a time to let's do the real deal, okay? This is what you're going to do if you really want success. And let's understand what the boxer level goes through, which is doing exercises, doing the skipping, doing the shadow boxing, doing the sparring, and then getting in the ring. And then what are you going to do in the ring when you don't have a skipping rope anymore to strangle the guy, when you're really getting punched? What are you going to do then, right? Well, let's do that. That's the magnetic memory method. So, it's got all the parts. All right. So no, Chris, I would not agree with those words. I would say them differently. This is an art, it's a craft, it's a skill, it's a way of life, it's a martial art. It is the mental martial art. It's just amazing what it does for you. Because like a martial art, it has better benefits than just not dying, in a fight. And it just has confidence, it has courage, it has creativity, it has all the wonderful things that you're going to get when you get this, when you do it, when you absolutely grasp control over your mind and develop it as a skill so that you're prepared to execute any last mental move with your mind, even with your head cut off, right? It is a martial art. It's beautiful. Daphne says, when you want to memorize random info like scientific facts, how do you connect the stations in your memory palace? Or is it better creating one palace for each subject and gradually filling them with info? That's a good question. And it is answered in the free training at magneticmemorymethod.com/YT. Have you taken that, Daphne? The way that you have your memory palace stations connected and humming along is discussed in that course. And then in terms of randomness, well, first of all, one of the things you do to reduce cognitive load is you get rid of randomness. You don't have randomness. One of the cool things about the Freedom Journal is you have a little space for organizing tomorrow. So you just write out what it is that you're going to memorize tomorrow. You've reduced randomness right there. Bang presto. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. But if you do have randomness, that's where impromptu memory palaces have a role. So there's lots of examples, but if you just give me a random fact, I will just randomly start to use the area around me as a memory palace. And when you get good at this stuff, you don't need a reason that it's this or that memory palace. You just do it. And then you follow the procedures that are taught in the masterclass to get it into long-term memory. And then it's there. So it's just pretty simple. And that can be page numbers as well. Like, you just read something randomly, you want to remember what page it's on. You got the major method, now all of a sudden there's some stuff up there in the corner, and away you go. Let me know if you have more questions around that, but that's basically the answer. Kunal says, yes, yeah, I loved your thoughts. I even don't play them, I just treat them as a space I could use as a memory palace. Yeah, I mean, just start to think about your spatial memory. It's one of the best assets. Of all the 7 magnetic modes, or the 6+1 as I like to think about it, space is the prime mode. It is something that you just really need to understand. Megaston topos hapantagar kori, right? Space is ultimate because it contains all things. That's from Thales. Pink Ribbon, I didn't even know that movie with the cutting eye scene. Thank you for letting me know this. Yeah, it's wild. Well worth everybody's time. It'll help you think more absurd thoughts, that's for sure. I'm finding hard to find mnemonics, says Pink Ribbon, for abstract words like Zisai, I read ZC, which means tax system. Unfortunately, I need to know words like these. Okay, well, look. One of the things that you do is just be aware of the world, because so it's ZC, right? I instantly think of Zizek, right? Now it's not exactly like Z, but it's got the Z sound. So Zizek, if you don't know him, he's a philosopher. He's a really wild, strange dude, very memorable. And so now Zizek sees Z's, right? And he sees Z's on his tax reform, or tax form, or whatever, right? And maybe he's his accountant is there, and his accountant is sleeping with Z's coming out of his mouth, right? So just like that. And why that I just see that and come up with this stuff like that is just through practice. I didn't used to be able to do it at the beginning, but very quickly. Benny Lewis talks about this actually in Fluent in 3 Months, about how quickly this actually comes when you just start doing it. I really love that. It's my favorite part of Fluent in 3 Months, of course. But and he gives there, if I recall right, he gives the example of a mnemonic image for the train station actually. And so, and he's like, yeah, at first you might feel a little bit rusty, like a rusty old saw, but when you just keep doing it, before you know it, someone will throw you something like ZC, and you'll be like, oh yeah, Zizek with a bunch of Z's on his tax return, and then his accountant is there snoring Z's that are also sawing through the tax return. It's just that simple. And then, of course, put that in a Memory Palace, build it in a Memory Palace, and you'll remember it if you just follow the proper procedures as you go along. Yeah, so I hope that helps. Thank you very much, Anthony. Chris says, you're wonderful. Have to sleep now. Well, schlaf schön, gute Nacht. Schön, dass du hier war. Always good to see you. See, really great translation, and like build more connections around it. That's a good idea. That's where you get rhizomes instead of lateral thinking. Which lateral thinking is cool too. Start anywhere, begin anywhere. So, Helpful Living says, street scenes, Main Street where I grew up, good for memory palaces. I don't like outdoor locations that much myself, but by all means do them. Give it a try yourself, see what works. There are some things about outdoor memory palaces that I've talked about with Phil Chambers on the podcast. It's the first time he was on the podcast, not the second one, though I think the two interviews go together well. So check those out. The second one is about memory palaces and mind maps. Sandeep asks how to create long memory palaces with 6,000 stations. Well, I don't teach that and don't recommend it, so if you want to know someone who has 2,000 stations in a memory palace, go listen to my most recent interview with Brad Zupp, and he talks about that. And ask the people who do those kinds of things, and they will likely have suggestions for you. But ask a different sort of question. The way to get the best answer is, I want to create a memory palace with 2,000 stations. And I heard from Anthony 6,000 stations. And I heard from Anthony that you have done one with 2,000. I listened to your interview, and I got some suggestions from it. Here's what I did, and maybe create a Google Doc with some drawings of your memory palace and describe to the person. The thing is here's where I'm struggling, right? And then describe how you think that they, in particular, can help you, and then you'll get a much better answer. But just a blank question. The answer will be limited, but if you try to answer it yourself and document the journey and tell them what you did, you're going to get much better answers, and they're going to be able to see what it is you tried and actually say, this looks like what the problem is. So that's a little tip for you. But Brad Zupp is the guy to talk about for these like massive memory palaces, although as I understand it, if I have interpreted correctly what he's talking about, it's actually a series of multiple memory palaces, which is ultimately the way to do it. It's not one memory palace, but multiple. I think this is almost undeniably the path and the way to do it. But you've got to find that out for yourself, and I hope that if you figure out how to do multiple or massive mega memory palaces, that you will share that with you. There is a way, but it ultimately comes down to having really multiple memory palaces. So it gets to be a matter of semantics at the end of the day, but that's basically what it comes down to. The answer is always multiple memory palaces. I've never seen anyone do that, do it in a way that didn't really ultimately come down to multiple. So Sandeep says historically events and so forth. Same thing. Show how you've tried yourself in your question, or build out your question a little bit more specifically, and you'll get answers. Usually it comes down to study, self-study, and taking training based on self-study. So if you don't have this course, go to magneticmemorymethod.com/YT, and then those questions will be a little bit more easy to answer, because they'll be based on some having taken some action and tried a few things. Happy Pratt, do you think puns and silliness like the Goons or Monty Python is helpful for getting used to unusual connections? Look, anything you can feed yourself and be conscious that it's going to be useful is going to be helpful. I'm not personally that big of a fan of Monty Python, although they do have some really funny stuff, and I'm sure that my paying attention to funny stuff has helped me along my journey, for sure. And as has Mad Magazine, but so has reading dense philosophy. So Michel Foucault and Aristotle and so forth have been just as helpful as the kids in the hall, and even in some cases more so, because it doesn't have to be absurd in order for you to make it absurd, right? So anything that you feed into your mind, I'm reading Finders Keepers by Stephen King right now, right? It's just straight ahead novel, and there's nothing particularly outrageous or absurd about it, but there are things in there that I can use now as tools that I couldn't use before. So it's just a matter of not so much studying the absurd as taking whatever tools make sense and then having an absurd component to them and just continuing the practice, finding out for yourself what works. And the more you get into that, the more that you're going to get more things working for you. So that's sort of a rule of thumb there that I think is really, really important to understand and to put into action for you. So just wondering, Happy Press says, as I was explaining memory palaces and the listener really struggled with the idea of encoding. Yeah, ask them one of the things that you do, or I find useful, is, okay, so you don't understand this. What is it that you're finding difficult to understand? And try and find out what it is. And often they'll actually understand it by telling you what it is they don't understand, which is why I was saying to Sandeep here, try to answer this yourself a little bit, because this is how you often learn. And the best teachers, they're going to just ultimately say, well, what is it you don't understand here? And then say, oh, well, it sounds like you actually understand it pretty good. Just need to go and implement and practice. Maybe. I don't know. I think that's part of it, though. Ask people what it is they don't understand. That's what I'm doing in the Major 2.0 project, is trying to figure out what it is, and then probably I'll just be able to create multiple versions of the courses for helping more people figure this out, because I struggle to figure out what's so difficult about it as well. But one of the big things is that people just don't have discipline. They don't have tools for discipline, which is what today's talk was about. And they also don't link it to a passion. And a core problem in memory training is just that let's start with a list of words that nobody cares about. And that automatically robs this beautiful tradition of people getting real results real quick, because you can't write generic books without some sort of generic list of things that people might want to memorize. which is the origin of my books on vocabulary. Yeah, I could have just written a book about vocabulary, but I thought, no, let's do it one language at a time. And that way we'll reach people who actually have something they want to do, and it works. It's gotten a lot better results than anything else. So there you go. So Pink Ribbon asks, what about locations from dreams, particularly the ones from recurring dreams? Ever used one? Yes, actually, Pink Ribbon, that's a great question. We had in the Magnetic Memory Method mastermind group, we had a special dream recall intensive that went for almost 2 months, and we did a lot of that. So if you're in the mastermind, then let me know, and we'll probably do another intensive soon. Maybe do it a little bit differently than we did last time, but for those who were on it, I think everybody had an amazing time, and we did talk about using the dreams themselves as memory palaces, and also get in touch by email. Let me know, and I'll send you the link to an interview where I was on about using dreams in your memory work and using memory in your dream recall work, and I think you'll find that very useful. Okay, Happy Pratt says, very Feynman-esque. Thanks, I'll do that. Yeah, well, it is Feynman-esque, but I'd say it predates Feynman by thousands of years. It's in Plato. It's in Plato. It is part of the Socratic method, you know. It's very powerful. It's Feynman-esque, except for that Feynman-esque is Socratic method-esque. So there's nothing new about it. The only thing that's new about it is that we got to constantly remind ourselves again and again and again about first principles of what really works. And what really works always, as Jordan Peterson says first, is the truth first. So tell the truth about your memory, where it is today. Tell the truth about what it is you want to do with a simple project. Use the Freedom Journal to help navigate your way towards a very specific end goal. Something simple that you can actually do, and then tell the truth to yourself by showing up to it every morning and documenting the process. And I highly recommend this as your go-to tool. So guys and girls and whatever you are and would prefer to be called, and I say that half ironically and half cautiously after having uttered the words Jordan Peterson, but you know, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing that's happening in those discussions as well, that there are deep wounds obviously in the world, and the pus is coming out. So if you don't know what I'm referring to, then just, but if you do, then I think you know why I'm saying this. And I want to thank you all for being here today on this occasion. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Thanks to Canal in particular for sharing your memory palace, and really amazing. And for those who want to do that kind of thing, please do. It is a cool thing to give a try to, and I really appreciate you sharing that with us. And hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. And we're going to see each other again real soon. I appreciate the time we spent together today. Come visit me at magneticmemorymethod.com. The link is magneticmemorymethod.com/freedom-journal. And Justin is just showing up here to say hello and would like to learn Spanish. I'm a brown guy because I get a horrible look from native speakers because I don't know Spanish. The Freedom Journal might help focus on what counts. Yeah, so the follow-up here for all of you who are here or you're watching the replay is go to magneticmemorymethod.com/freedom-journal. You'll see pages from the journal, and you'll see more of this. It's got a suggestion for your first 10 days if you don't know what vocabulary you might want to focus on. If you'd like the Magnetic Memory Method Vocabulary Builder, it's in the masterclass. You can always get the masterclass at any time. Start with the free course at magneticmemorymethod.com/YT. If you just want to dive in right away, don't need the free course stuff, then go to magneticmemorymethod.com/store, and you can get the vocabulary course or get the full masterclass as you please. And get this at magneticmemorymethod.com/TFJ. Lots of links I know I'm throwing at you, but it all happens at magneticmemorymethod.com. This is the most recent post and podcast. I suggest you read and listen. There's always more in the podcast that isn't in the blog, including an interview with John Lee Dumas himself, who created this journal. And you'll hear me talking about the difference between the digital and the print, and he gives real good justifications for getting either, whatever works for you, and I have to agree. So even though I do put all those cautionary notes on the digital, try both. Do. The worst that can happen is you have an experience and an adventure. And if you like these kinds of things, always support it. Support it with your comments, support it with your thumbs up. I would love for you to go to magneticmarymethod.com/freedom-journal and share in the comment section what you think about this, and put your hell yeah, you're gonna do this, okay? Because every day that you don't move forward towards goals and dreams, you're just missing out on so much of life's pleasures, so much of life's joys, so much of what it means to really be truly alive, okay? So go and do that now. Go to magneticmarymethod.com/freedom-journal. Download the podcast so you can listen to it later. Bookmark that page and just say, hell yeah, you're going to do this down in the comments. And Justin, you in particular, just to speak to you, go and do this. Like, you have a goal, you have a rationale, you have a reason, a passion, a motivation. The things that will happen to you, you just have no idea what an adventure is going to open up just by making traction with even a handful of words. It changes your brain. It deepens your life. You begin to think about your brain and language and everything so much differently, and the pleasure that just goes exploding in your brain from accomplishment. It's wild, it's fun, it's amazing, it's awesome, it's rad, it's cool, and you can always come back to this live to review. And I'd love to know from you guys as well, either now or in the future. I want to make a formal course about this, and I want to do it, so that you don't have to listen to it on a live session and so forth. Let me know if you'd like that. If you say, hell yeah, I want a course about this, let me know. And the more interest in it, then the sooner it'll probably get done. But I think it's going to be a real helpful course just to break it down. It doesn't need to be a long course, and it might be possible to do it on a language by language basis, so that if you're just into Spanish, for example, you don't have to have examples in any other language except for the language that you're studying. So we're going to get off this live now, but I'd love to hear from you. If that is something of interest to you, you can let me know ASAP by going to magneticmarymethod.com/freedom-journal. Check this out. Get one of these. You're going to love it. It's going to do amazing things for you. And you know what? Even if it's not for right now, understand that the speed of implementation rule, that you're much more likely to do something and actually do it and keep doing it if you don't let too much time go by. So this is a very small investment. You'll be able to use it immediately if you have a digital one. You'll wait a little bit until you get the physical one, but it comes pretty fast. And get both, I'd say. Get the digital one, get started, and then feel the effect. Feel the difference when you actually have it in your eyes and your hand. Freedom Journal, magneticmarymethod.com/freedom-journal. Thanks everyone for being here. Had a great time. I really appreciate all the wonderful questions. And I also appreciate the opportunity to talk about the nature of asking questions themselves. Happy Press says, cheers Anthony, always a hoot. Brain is fireworking away now. Can't wait for the Freedom Journal course. Have a good one. Helpful Living, thanks for everything. Thank you, Happy Pratt. Thank you, Helpful Living. I look forward to seeing you all again. And until we do, come visit me at magneticmarymethod.com and keep yourself magnetic. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.